This is Justin Amazon on Friday, April 12th, 2019. Look what we had. Another gap up. uh, and then we went sideways, made a new high, which got sold right back down. High in the day, sold back down. Did this kind of double top thing with a retest of the neckline here, and then that just plummeted. But it put a low right at 1841.30 and then bounced with a very strong bullish candle, slight increase in volume on that candle. That started to kind of roll over here. And I mean, it kind of made one attempt to start to break out, went sideways for out, made a second attempt, ran right into the 21, came back down again. And this is where some bears were loading on. This is where some bulls were loading on. And a tight stop would have been stopped out. And then it started to actually bounce and ran back up just about to the open, or no, higher than the open, almost to the that high. I mean, back into that candle's range, and then rolled back down to the 21, got going again, but it was too much to have this thing run even more. This was a really nice bullish move, but again, we're so range bound on this. We've been literally just hanging out around the 1841.30, like just sitting here, not even making higher lows, making relative highs. I can't even say that the 5 is really, kind of acting as the support, because I mean, we came down here. I mean, it is support. We're definitely getting the squeeze here. It's just a matter of, okay, what's going to happen? Are we going to really gap up above this, like these candles, like this, like I did back here, and just keep on going? Like, there's a lot of momentum building here. I mean, it's been all week, all 5 days have been in this range, really. And, I kind of expected a little more of a sell-off, actually. So, we had the last time we had a close below the 5 was this day. And that was a couple weeks ago. That was late March. So we had another one here, and this one's pretty much right on. We really need to see a close below the 5 if we're going to pull back anymore. But again, if we get a gap up and we hold these highs, I mean, it's a bullish gap and go if it happens Monday. If we gap up here, you could take it bullish. If it works out, great. If it closes and we get a bearish engulfing, again, we're just kind of due for a bigger pullback. But I don't know. It doesn't really have to happen. So I would like to see some selling next week going into a holiday week. I'm just kind of anticipating that happening. But if everybody's expecting that, maybe it just won't happen. Back in here on the 5-minute, we had the bounces down here yesterday, and we really closed, really, really close to where we closed yesterday. Just kind of making some lows on the day, lower highs, relative lows. Today, it kind of had different slope to the lower highs, but they're still there. There's a little bit more of a symmetric triangle today. And if you're patient enough to let all that play out, I mean, it can be a really good move. I mean, just like we had yesterday, lower highs, and it ran out of time to do something. Today, I mean, it moved. So, even getting a nice bounce here, and another opportunity to get in, and if you drew this line, you could have even been trying to buy this, but it definitely was forming this, and I guess it's not a symmetric triangle because it's a different angle to it. That's a little more symmetric, but you're kind of discounting all of this double bottoming move. Anyway, let me see if I can get rid of all these lines now. So let's look over at the and this one too. Let's look over at the calls. This is the 1845 calls. The reason I'm looking at 1845 is 1850, we spent most of the day out of the money. 1845, we crossed a couple of times. 1840, we didn't get down to, but you had intrinsic value down here. And we can take a look at the 1845 puts as well. Now, you may not have known which strike to go with, with the right at the open. I mean, would have had to go from here to here to really check out, a couple different options around here. But with it being a Friday expiration and being so range bound, I mean, getting something that's either in the money or a strike that we were already crossing through is probably a good way to go with this. So, and here we had the low where we bounced at 1841.30. The low here was 202. We got the bounce, started to pull back a little bit. This was a nice level to then take the breakout, but your setup had to be wide enough. Getting in like 3x2 should have worked. If you're trying to, have your stop a little tighter, do 3x250 and get two options. That didn't work. You got stopped out here. You could have even just waited and done a pullback, entry on the pullback back to 250 if it came down here, 250 by 150. All those would have worked. I mean, even 3x2, it went all the way up to 5. That would have been a great trade on, something that's so range bound today. And to look at what the range actually was. So yesterday we had a 964 range, and today we had a 1020 range. So we've got some really, really small candles, a couple of them right in a row. But anyway, let's get back over in here. So this was the really only place to buy calls. Give you a couple opportunities to get in around 250. If you were just buying down here at the low, if you're trying to get filled at 2, it didn't come down there. Maybe it would have if you had an open order there. I don't know. But there wasn't anything to really buy off of. You had this lower wick, so maybe you could have done 259 and a stop at 159, something like that. That would have worked here, but you would have had to be in it for all of this. It's just a matter of just being even more patient. It's like if you're asking a question, is it too soon to get in? Maybe wait for another leg down or a little bit more of a pullback and be like, oh, okay, now I'll get in. But it's hard to kind of make that adjustment. You got to set up for your plan and stick with what you're going to do. Most of the day, though, you see this, this downtrending. You see a little bit more of the triangle forming here. If you just connect some of this and some of this, like some of this, I'm cutting through some of the lows here. So it's probably not quite that steep. It's probably a little bit more, maybe like that. Catch some of the lows, indecision here, and then a breakdown. So on the option, you're watching the consolidation there. On the stock, you're watching the consolidation. Then it's a matter of which way is it going to go. And looking at the 1845 puts, we came down. We're out of the money, right? A little bit out of the money. Yeah, so we're out of the money through all of this. And then we got into the money by a few bucks. So this came all the way down to 41 cents. Like you can be buying 2 at 50 cents or $50, and then that went all the way up to 250. So that could have been a 4-hour trade. If you were looking at the 1850 put, you had some intrinsic value. Again, doing a trade like 3x2. It's over here. Doing a trade through by 2. That ran all the way up to 7. Even got a little bit higher than that, but this would have been a challenge to hold through, into the close or into the last half hour of the day. But getting in like 3x2, I don't know if it would have filled how quickly this candle was forming. So there were definitely some opportunities to just buy right here, 250 by 150, just to get into that kind of move, anticipating that this was going to hold this was going to hold as resistance, as a lower high based on what that triangle looks like, and then taking that rollover. Now it did have to break the 21, which it had sort of done here. So I'm just looking for reasons that you could have taken the setup here with puts, gotten in with puts and taking the stock bearish with the options. So some great opportunities to buy at some levels that were similar, not exact, and we actually pulled down a little further on this level than we did here, but on the calls we were lower here first than we were here, and so it's kind of just opposite setups. So a bit of a challenging day to trade directionally with options because we're range bound, and you're looking for some of those key key prices. If you were looking for this and had something set up for this, that was probably the best setup right here. If you were up here looking for a rollover, you got some here, but maybe here you got trailed out too early or stopped out, so, just, and then this one probably would not have filled if you had the same setup as down here. So, I mean, again, just different setups working in different directions, different levels. But we were, pretty good just the last couple of days, staying around 1850 at the highs and then staying around 1841.30 at the lows, pushing through a little bit. So really just such a sideways couple of days that it just makes its own challenge for going directionally. If we zoom out here again, you can see, where we're at, and let's get a little closer on this range. So this level, this is where we're at right here. We paused there a little bit for a couple of days when we first got into it. We did have a breakout through it, which is something I'm saying could happen, but we had earnings right around that time. I don't think we're going to continue going sideways through in this range all the way into earnings. My guess is that there's a lot of folks that are still buying here thinking it's going to go. There's a lot of folks here selling because they've been in for a while, and this is a decent move. I think we're going to go higher. I just don't know if we're going to pull back sharply first or if we're just going to continue to run up and contend with some of these levels up here, getting around 1900, 2000, if we're going to do that first. This is a rest, it's just not one of those pullback rests, which, we're kind of used to seeing. But, think back through all this. We went sideways for a couple of weeks. We've just been sideways for all of this week. And it's like we just want something to move. Well, it's just not the time for it to do it. So we'll see if anything gets going again next week, and see if there's any sell-off into the end of the week for the holiday next Friday. And we'll just have to see where things are headed as the week starts. Hope you enjoyed this video. This is Justin AMZN. Thanks.